You've been repeating these things so often for your students so many times that, like you said, there's almost a sense of autopilot that turns on sometimes, and how you're living your life isn't necessarily a reflection of how you're teaching the practice. And I think for both you and me, it's been a really beautiful sort of wake up call to, sorry to use the cliche, but to practice what you preach, you know?
That was Adam Whiting. Hey everyone, welcome to another Yogi Misfit Sessions. My name is Danny Pomploon and I am your host. So welcome to session 103. I got Adam Whiting on the show today. Adam and I met at a festival this last year. We met at the Asheville Yoga Festival, and one of our teachers, Janet Stone, introduced us and was like, you guys are going to be friends. And immediately we just hit it off, and he's a super, super, super sweet guy and big teacher out in Australia. Ended up coming back and forth, and now he's back out there creating community again. This show, we talked a lot about community itself and you know, what we thought was important in the communities that we were trying to create, whether they were trying to be like online communities or in-person communities, and how that's just changed over the way we get to know ourselves a little bit better. Just so much love to Adam, man. I know you're going to be listening to this in a second, but know that I love you so, so much, man. It was an honor and a pleasure to have you on the show. Just before we get into the show itself, cool announcement for me. I've been working on this project for quite a while, but I just launched the Danny Pomploon Yoga app. Yep, I launched an app, so you can literally now take me into your, or put me in your pocket, rather, is what I'm trying to say, and take me anywhere you want to go. The app right now is free and it's online for everybody. You can download it on my website. You can use the link below. There's 6 classes there for you to play with and 2 courses. There's a strength challenge coming up. There's also a little daily motivation push notification that you get, and you can share that with your friends. And yeah, it's all there and it's all free for you guys to enjoy. I would love to hear your feedback. It's been an honor and a pleasure to work on it, and it's cool to just finally see it come together. As always, if you love the show, head over to iTunes and leave us a review. It'll help get the show out to all of your friends and your friends' friends' friends and your friends' 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 friends. Without further ado, here goes session 103 with Adam Whiting. Adam, I have to try my hardest because people are actually listening to this. Not to just relentlessly rip on you this entire episode.
I mean, that's what our relationship is based on. So why do anything different right now?
Yeah. Case in point. You know what I love about this episode, even though it's not done yet, it's just how fine your interview is.
Thanks. It means a lot to me coming from you.
You know, like I'm sure I'm going to re-listen to this and it's going to be fine. Yeah, it'll just be, fine.
I mean, I might even say it's going to be good.
Fine. Yeah, fine.
All right, I'll take fine. It's good. Whatever. No, it's not good. It's fine.
And I feel like we should also just give Janet a big shout out for literally being like, you should. I think that was the first thing she said. She's like, you guys are going to be really good friends. Watch.
Oh my God. I remember meeting you in the restaurant in Asheville, and I believe you were like digging into your dinner. And just that big first squeeze I got from you, I was like, God, this, I don't even know who this person is yet, but like, I want him in my life. So yes. So thank you to Janet, and big love to Janet, because I miss her as much as I miss you.
Oh man, we're getting feelings now.
That's it. Podcast is over.
Yeah. And mic drop. We're done. Same, dude. Same. I like, I mean, for the listeners aside, Adam and I have only been friends for not even a year yet, and we've just been. It's just been a really sweet, and really, I don't know, an easy friendship, I guess. When you get to meet somebody else on the journey that's willing to go there, it's kind of easy not to fall in love with you when you're willing to look me in the eyes and be like, where are you at? Like,
exactly.
I love that none of our conversation has ever been like, what's your favorite color? Or, like, what do you do on the weekend? But it's just been like, how's your heart right now?
Yeah. And there are a few people that you meet in your life that you just fall into that space really, really quickly, and you just cut through the bullshit really, really quickly, and that's how I felt, like pretty immediately. And you know, with you immediately taking the piss out of everything that I say, it cut through it all pretty quickly, and we just landed in that spot of like, yes, a lot of sarcasm and a lot of maybe we'll call it tough love.
Right. I mean,
But
I was relentless. I was non-stop. It was, it was like, like a little kid when they like the girl, but they can't say it because they don't know how. So they hit her and then they run.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's totally what it was.
Yeah, that's what it felt like too. But I was all right with it. But yeah, it was a very, there wasn't any like walls or facades or anything like that. Like it was, like I said, just a few people you meet in your life where you cut through that really, really quickly, and you get to the heart and you get to the good stuff. And I appreciate it more than you know.
I mean, same, brother, same. You've, real quickly in this last, few months have been my anchor in a few different things, just a little couple touch points, where
Yeah.
our funny text message, like, we like this yoga thing, right? Like we're into this. Yeah.
Yeah, this is still important, right? We're doing the right thing.
Yeah. And now we start sobbing. So, I mean, we started, just before we hit record, I had to slow us down because there was already so much wisdom and so many nuggets. But, I figured versus having one just set thing to talk about today, there's a few things that are on both of our minds. And, you started, for those of you tuning in, like we were talking about Adam, you just got uprooted and went back to Australia after you were back in the States for a little bit. And your community is just, where are you at?
Yeah, it's been an interesting few months, few weeks. I just landed in Adelaide, which is a city in South Australia, and I think the flight landed 5 or 6 days ago. Let's say 5 days ago. So I'm at this point right now of just everything's a little upside down, like literally on the other side of the planet, but also just jet lag. And also, I've been sort of traveling and teaching for the last few years. So I've been in a state which is a great state and exactly where I wanted to be for a long time, which is basically living out of 2 suitcases and a guitar case. And that was sort of it. And not really, and intentionally not really accumulating any sort of, personal belongings more than I could check on an airplane. And so now here for the first time in a few years, settling into an apartment and, out of all the lists that you could make of things that you need to buy to get an apartment, like I'm missing so many things. And I'm like, oh, wait, I need to buy sharp knives and I need silverware and I need a coffee maker and I need a toaster and I need sheets and so it's been like the last 5 days have just been actually a lot of fun. I'm just relying on some good friends to like show me the shops and to, decorate apartments and pick out the bedding and do all that fun stuff. But right. It's been really nice, like a bit of a whirlwind and a bit sort of topsy-turvy. But it feels, after being so sort of mobile and light for a couple of years, it feels good to actually be planting my feet in a community for a long period of time. And just being able to land here. And it already, even though it's only been 4 or 5 days, it feels different because I'm allowing the roots to sort of dig deeper into the soil, whereas other communities that I sort of tap into for shorter periods of time, there's almost that sort of like self-protection mechanism where the roots sort of draw back in because you're going to be leaving very quickly. Right. And here it already feels like I'm allowing myself to sort of snuggle into the bed a little bit more and get really, really comfortable, which is nice. It's a sweet new feeling and I'm digging it already.
Question with that. As you do snuggle into that bed, is it more big spoon or little spoon status?
Definitely big spoon.
Okay, cool. Great.
I feel a little too vulnerable as the little spoon.
We're doing great, Adam.
I didn't mean that in any way other than
Listen, I don't want to argue about this on air, but we agreed in private that I would be Bixby this time.
I know. I just telling you how that's not in my comfort zone, but I'm willing to step outside of that for you.
Thank you for seeing me, Adam. Thank you for seeing me. I feel it, man. There's nothing like, you know. I went down to LA recently, and I was down there doing some filming stuff, and you know, I took Vinny Marino's class, who's like a yoga works legend down in LA. He's you know Vinny Marino, everyone does. And I sat, and I mean this, and like this is a lead into what I'm about to get to. But I sat there and I was like waiting for him at the studio, and you know, he comes out and his class comes pouring out, and he was like introducing me to a couple students, and he goes, "Oh, this is Danny. He's a really well established teacher in San Francisco." And as he said that, I'm like, "No, I'm not. I'm just a yoga teacher." and we talked about it at dinner, and he's like, "No, you've done a great job at building a community in San Francisco." And I was like, "That I'm willing to accept." You know, like. No matter, I got really, not lost, but I thought I was doing, you know, we've talked about this, what I thought I was supposed to be doing, which was like, continue to move forward in the career. And,
right.
You know, you gotta do this. And this is what all the other teachers are doing. So I've got to do it too. And blah, 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 blah. And, you know, I pulled myself away for long periods of time to San Francisco, you know, thinking that it was the right thing to do. And what I realized was, you know, I really actually like it here a lot. Like I thoroughly enjoy being here. And there is nothing like, you know, coming to my home studio where the people are there every week. Some people that have been practicing with me since I started teaching there like 5 years ago, you know, and they're there every week and they want to be there every week. You know what I mean?
Totally.
And at this point now, like, dude, there's just Monday, Wednesday nights at Hayes. There is just like, we come in and I have to remember to start teaching yoga. I'm like, oh yeah, you're not hanging out with your friends and socializing right now, Danny. You have to like actually start. But like everyone just gets to know each other and everyone sits and chats and we talk about like our weekend. Like, you know, it's like, it's home. It's this other crew of people that, you know, whereas I felt, you know, and I said this on one of the podcasts, or I had to cry, you know, behind the scenes. I could totally feel okay crying in front of all these people and not having to be like, well, I'm a teacher, I got to hold this facade or any of that. Like,
yeah,
it is absolutely home. And these people will always understand me and will always get Sunday. Perfect example. On Sunday, I was, you know, I woke up and I thought I had like the flu. I had body aches and whatever, and I was not really feeling great. And I went to show up and I just walked in. I was like, you guys, I'm not really sure what's going on. I'm not feeling great. Not sure if I'm going to like make it all the way, but we'll just see as far as I get. And immediately everyone was like, if you need to go home, man, go home. Like 30 people were like, just go home and, you know, rest, or, you know, you can lay us down in Shavasana, or like just such a feeling of like realness and rawness.
Right. Like whatever you show up with, like show up with whatever you have and we'll support you and we'll love you for it. Like whether it's, you know, a powerful rockin' best class you've ever given, or if it's just, you know, you sort of stepping up and being, you know, showing your weaknesses a little bit, and to know that that community will hold you and will accept you, like whatever you step into that room with, is a beautiful feeling.
It's unlike anything else that this, you know, this career job thing. It's a career, it's a job, whatever. that I never knew it would be a part of it. Like you don't really think about that, you know. I guess maybe I just didn't think about that when you know, because you were uprooted for quite a while, I guess, in that sense of, you know, protecting yourself, but because you didn't necessarily have that. How did you get by, or how, you know, what was that effect on you?
Yeah, it's one of those things that I think with many things in life, you don't really see the effect that it has been having on you until after the fact, or until you're well on the journey. You know, I started teaching yoga and lived in Charlotte, North Carolina for a long time and had a beautiful community there. And it's such a lovely city and such a thriving yoga community. And then moved to Australia and was traveling around Australia and lived in Sydney for several years. And then after leaving Sydney, I went back to the US, but was still traveling, still teaching in Australia and Asia and around America. And um, for a long time, I really thought that was what I wanted in a career. I thought that's,
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to be the traveling yoga teacher. And I think that's sort of, I never want to sound like I'm um, disregarding or talking down to social media or that sort of wave of yoga, because it's real and it's present and we both utilize that tool for our careers. But I think that I know when I started teaching yoga, it was when the sort of Instagram yoga superstars were traveling around, and I would go to their workshops, and I totally got caught up in that. And as my career started to evolve, it felt for me that I was drawing into that. Like that's the path that I wanted to take, because I looked up to these teachers so much, and because I saw them on my phone all the time doing these amazing things. And
Oh, for sure.
and for the last few years, I've been able to live that lifestyle, and we've talked about it a lot, in terms of your journey and where you've sort of landed right now, and me as well. Is being on the road it's amazing, and you get to meet so many just beautiful, amazing people and see these parts of the world that are unreal. And there is a real glamour to it, and there is a real allure to it. And I'm still drawn to it in a lot of ways, but also there's a big part that's missing for me. And I completely am open about my introverted tendencies, where I have a tendency to withdraw and to not open up very easily. And
Right.
especially if it's in a new community, I'm not easy to, I'm not the type of person that can easily go up and introduce myself and be like, let's get a coffee. Like I'm the type of person that feels really awkward doing that. So
Yeah.
a lot of this time on the road, is basically, it's alone time, which is, I love my alone time. And I love going on those long walks and just downloading and just being on my own. But at the same time,
Thinking about me,
yeah,
and
and like writing you love letters and all of that stuff. But but at the same time, like over, the course of this time, I did start feeling that something was missing. Like like I was saying before, I didn't feel grounded, and
yeah,
I just didn't feel like I had a home. And for some people who are in this game, that's the lifestyle that like lights them up, and that's where they shine in life. And for me, I just started realizing slowly that I needed that sense of community and that sense of home, and
Mhm.
and to travel and to teach and to do things outside of that, but to have a place to come home to. So within the last couple years, I've been spending a lot of time here in Adelaide. The wonderful studio owners have been welcoming me in a couple times a year. And, even earlier in 2019, I did a 2-month residency here. And the community that they have created in this city is honestly like nothing I've ever seen. And I'm sure you're familiar with that vibe. But I remember I was teaching one of my first evening classes there, which was like 6:15 to 7:30, and we rocked out at 7:30, and they were like, "Okay, so you'll probably leave, around 8:15, 8:30, or something like that." And I was like, "Why is that?" And it's basically because the all of the 60, 70 people that were in the yoga studio pour out into the community space and basically just fill up their mugs with tea and sit down and just start chatting like it's a cafe, like it's a family, um, like it's a little social party. And
Mhm.
um, and you just sit there and you watch these people and you meet these people, um, and immediately I was so endeared with that community and how welcoming it felt.
Yeah.
So yeah, when the opportunity came for me to come here, and they're opening up a new studio in the city. So when the opportunity came for me to come here and spend a couple years helping them get the studio off the ground, and to be a part of this community that Tessa and Triton have created, I jumped at the opportunity, and it was a big move and a big sort of adjustment period for sure. And I'm sure there'll be bumps along the way, but I'm already excited about having a home, like a physical home to like sleep in,
Right.
but also like a yoga studio community home where I can, like you said, just show up and contribute, but also be fulfilled by.
Hey guys, this episode is sponsored by Brettonbush Hot Springs. Big shout out to them for supporting the show. They're a really cool retreat center that's off the grid. They've got some hot springs. They're a yoga retreat center and meditation destination. It's located right outside the Oregon Cascade Mountain Range, and they offer over 150 workshops per year, as well as some free mindfulness and movement classes that you can find daily. This place is the perfect place to detach and just get comfortable, right? So we all get busy in the hustle and bustle in life. Check it out. I know you'll love it just as much as I do. You can check out their website at brettonbush.com. That's BRIETENBUSH.com. And now, back to the show.
Did you, I guess at what point did you have to shift your perspective, and change? There's a lot of times where people were like, Danny, like, you might want to do this instead of this. And like, there was a lot of advice given as to like what I was doing. And they're like, you could do this, or, maybe you stay home, or maybe you travel, or like whatever, you can't do it all. Little did they know.
Yes, we can.
Little did they know I can. I'm going to burn out and I'm going to cry at the end, but I'm going to do it. But it took me going through 2019, which was fucking brutal. Like, I mean, 2019 was brutal. I definitely win the award for doing the most and not the best. Not that that's a good thing, but I wouldn't have known any of that until I went through all of it. And like you said, like, I did get caught up on, man, I used to spend so much time on Instagram and really trying to beef it up and make it like the thing. And then I just decided one day, like you could clearly see where I just stopped posting and I just stopped like writing. Like I just couldn't do it anymore. It felt like it was forced,
Totally.
where some people are really into it. Like it just felt like it was forced. And then towards the end of the year, it became like, it became something where I was just sharing a side of myself, like a real side of myself. And I got backlash for it. Like I was taking pictures of me in the morning in underwear and people were like, oh my God, what's wrong with you? You're taking pictures of you in your underwear. That's not professional. I'm like, what? There's half naked girls on Instagram, like
Exactly.
doing yoga. And I don't get it, but.
And I'm in that state right now with it. Like I have,
you're currently taking pictures in your underwear?
Yeah, no.
I mean, it's a first for the podcast.
Stay tuned for my Insta stories. I'm in my underwear right now. No, just in terms of like the frequency in which I've been posting. Like you said, it used to be for a long time, it was a daily, like, okay, here's my daily post. And then for the last, little bit of time, it's been, once or twice a week. And now, I think I posted once like a month ago. And then I posted a few weeks ago to announce the move to Australia. And I haven't posted since. And it's not, by no means is it that I'm against it. It's almost like I've stepped away from it and I'm looking at it at a distance now and trying to figure out how to re-enter, how do I step back into this place? Because I love the community that's on this platform, and it has done so much for me. And I like I said, I never want to talk down on it. But like everything else, it has its challenges. And I definitely want to step back into the platform. But like you said, I think it's when I step back in, which will be sometime soon for sure. I want it to be more of that. This is who I am. And I've tried to maintain that throughout everything I post, especially with my writing and photography and stuff like that. But I don't know. I think it's got to be a little bit more raw and a little bit more real and a little bit less. I think what you're saying is a little bit less worried about how it will be perceived in the professional yoga sphere, and more this understanding that this is me as a human being moving through this difficult journey of life. And this is what I'm coming up against now. And this is how I'm working through it.
Well, because aren't we all human anyway, and just having our own experience, and like part of, the way that I show up in a yoga space is part of being real, and I'm not saying that I have to like air out my dirty laundry and like dump all my stuff, but I am allowed to be Danny, and there's so many different sides to that I get to share. Am I only allowed to share when I'm studying and when I'm like practicing and when I'm doing drills and things like that? Or can I also share when the human side of me is like hanging out in my window and chilling, or going out and, hanging out with my queer family, or like, going out on my, like just the other aspects of me? I felt like for the first time, I authentically shared, and people were like, what the fuck?
Unfollow.
Yeah, totally. Like, but I don't know. I like just kind of same thing like with you. I love Instagram. I have a love hate with it, in the sense that like I hate doing the work. I hate that I'm like fighting an algorithm, because I can't like have a conversation with it and be,
Right.
like if I could look down the algorithm, But some of my best friends to this day I have met on Instagram. Like
Yeah, same.
one person right now that I can think of that I hang out often, and we talk, like a few times a week, and has helped me with my app launch and like some other personal stuff. And like we met on Instagram, and if it wasn't for Instagram, I would have never met this amazing human being and his wife. And like, they're my two favorite people in the whole wide world.
Yeah, definitely.
But,
and I think exactly what you said. I mean, I had this conversation after teaching a class here yesterday is, part of the class that I was talking about was, this idea of not just honoring the light, like of course the light inside me honors the light in you, but like, what about the parts that aren't so light, that are, that are in shadows, that are in the darkness? And if we only acknowledge that light, if we only acknowledge the sunshine, we are ignoring so much of this human experience. We
Right.
are all, especially in terms of like, of this idea of finding balance, we have to understand that everything comes in this natural world. Everything comes in balance. We have, the heat of the summer and the cold of the winter, the light of the day and the dark of the night, but also all of that exists in a microcosm within us. And if we only, whether it's through our teaching or our conversations or how we portray ourselves out in the social media world, if we only show the parts where the sun is shining, then it's not the whole story. It's incomplete, and it's what's lending itself or what's contributing to a little bit of a misalignment, I guess, with the truth. If
Right.
we've got to be honest that that there's darkness and there's shadows in this lifetime as well, and it's a necessary part of this journey that we're on, so that we learn and that we grow and we struggle and we actually figure out how to be decent human beings, and how do we be decent with each other. And it's not through the beautiful yoga sunset pics and like Insta quotes. I mean, that's a part of it for sure, but we've got to be real as well. And we got to say, hey, sometimes I don't get out of bed for a couple of days because I just can't, and that's okay too, and that's a part of it. And if that's you, I support you and I love you.
Right. If that's where you're at right now, like, let's accept that too.
Exactly.
Do you think I guess, do you remember like that, just, was there like a moment or anything that you like specifically went through where you're like, okay, I got to reevaluate what I'm doing? For me, it was burnout, obviously, where I was like, wait a minute, I don't have to try to, okay. And I'm not trying to win a popularity contest anymore.
Right. Yeah. I've always been really open with my sort of journey through panic and anxiety disorder and depression. It's something that I struggled with a lot in sort of my formative years, my high school, college years, and early 20s. And then I found my path in yoga and path in, all the pillars of the practice of meditation and of movement and mindfulness. And even I'm currently in the work of like rewriting my bio, because even in my bio, it's sort of, when I wrote it, it's sort of like, Adam once had these struggles with panic and disorder and depression, and then he found yoga, and I'm like,
and now it's
right,
fun.
exactly, and I'm like, that's just not the truth, and I have to tell you, and I haven't been super open about it, but like 2019, like I was struggling with some of the deepest depression I've ever been in my life. And like even now, just thinking about it, like I can feel like you know, when you're sort of when
Yeah.
you know when you're really like physically sick, like you have the flu and you're
Right.
not quite like you're past the point of like the fever and the shakes and the, you know, but you're still not feeling great, but you know you're getting better. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's sort of at the state I'm at right now, where I know that I'm climbing out of it, and I can feel the sun shining on my face again, and I can feel myself wanting to reemerge and reintegrate with the world. But I'm also still sort of um, on the way out, but not out yet, and it was a big struggle. And what we were talking about before we started recording, what you said, which really landed, is that I had to reevaluate how I was approaching the practice, not as a teacher, but as a student of the practice. What, like,
Mm-hmm.
obviously for me, it was like, it was this, just this wake up call of, okay, you know, you are teaching the practice and you're speaking of the practice that you know has worked for you in the past, but something that you're doing is not working right now. And
Yeah.
how do I reapproach my lifestyle, my practice, so that I can move away from this sort of darkness and honor it for what it is, but also, you know, move forward and feel better about everything. And I'm still working it out. Like I'm still figuring it out, because it's been a big realignment of my meditation practices, because I was still meditating throughout all of it, and you know, and that's the biggest part of my practice. But the way I was meditating, it just wasn't working, and it was almost dropping me deeper and deeper into the sadness. And for a little while, for a long while, I was like, well, maybe this is the journey, and this is the direction that I need to go. You know, that idea of the only way out is through. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but then you know, in speaking to some teachers, I sort of came to the conclusion of, well, maybe not. Like maybe this isn't helping me, and I'm only just sitting in the state of like rumination and reflection, as opposed to moving towards stillness and healing. So it was a lot of just reconfiguring, like no big massive changes, but just reconfiguring a little bit of the techniques that I've used, and you know, relying really heavily on yoga nidra and more of the introspective journaling stuff, which I've actually never really done. You know, just sort of stream of thought consciousness writing in the morning to just sort of get it straight and get it out of me. You know, this idea of it's almost like a purging onto paper, so it's not rattling around my brain for the rest of the day. And it's been,
Amen. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And
Amen.
I know your morning ritual has been something that's been really important to you lately too, right?
Dude, it was like like, I mean, I'm totally saying this and not, fuck it, I'm not even embarrassed. Like, I had not done any of the things that I was telling people to do in months. Like,
Right?
meditate. When was the last time you fucking meditated, Danny? You haven't. Like, you know, or like, "Yeah, yoga, it's good for you." When was the last time I actually like got on my mat or went to a class? Like, I just didn't, you know, like I was
Mm,
making these excuses and, you know, like my partner was the one who really like brought it to my attention. But when I had come to terms with burnout and I was like, I'm fried. I can't produce. I can't do anything right now. Just like I can barely show up and be this empty vessel. Like it's just not even, I'm just here, you know,
yeah.
autopilot, which felt terrible. You know what I mean? Like it didn't feel good to just show up. But like when I was like, all right, I've got to get through these next 2 months because I have these commitments that I'm going to stick with, and because it was my promise, right? So I'm going to do it. How do I then get myself? How do I equip myself over the next, you know, X many months or whatever days it was, you know, to make this a bit, to go through it with a little more ease and not have to just go through it completely empty again. And I was like, I need to jumpstart that sadhana practice that I like brought to Bali that completely changed the way I taught there and completely changed the way I connected with that community there. And like, you know, and I started doing it. And then I started doing this Kriya that, you know, Kia, my one of my teachers right now was on, and immediately, Adam, like it was like, I hate to say it, but this shit works. Foot
Yeah,
in mouth, foot in mouth. I'm sorry, all the shit I've talked about this for so long.
I know
Like
it's so
I
true. I
start.
had this moment of not to talk about social media again, but I'm just part of what I do in the U.S. is run one of my 300-hour programs, and we just finished a module a couple months ago, and there were a couple of students who I always get a little uncomfortable when I see a post on social media when it's like, my teacher, Adam Whiting, said this. And I was like, oh God, what did I say? Like, like, don't quote me. Please don't quote me. Like, this is permanent and it might be dead wrong. Like,
Huge panic attack.
Right, exactly.
Massive anxiety and panic.
But it was this moment of, it was just recently where a student sort of, she was talking about meditation and I even forget exactly what she said, but it was just this idea of like not meditating for the experience of the meditation, but meditating for the reason for how it affects how you interact with the world the rest of the day. And just to have somebody, and those aren't even my words, those are my teacher's words, but to have somebody sort of reflect what you said on that platform. And I was like, oh my God, I said that. And just like you said, in my mind, I said, oh my God, you said that, but are you living it?
Yeah.
Or are you just, you've been repeating these things so often for your students so many times that, like you said, there's almost a sense of autopilot that turns on sometimes. And how you're living your life isn't necessarily a reflection of how you're teaching the practice. And I think for both you and me, it's been a really beautiful sort of wake up call to, sorry to use the cliche, but to practice what you preach,
I mean, and to connect all the dots together, really, you ready? Mind blown time.
I'm ready.
Like the reason why for me was because we were maybe for you too. And I'm going to totally put words in your mouth, and you can discredit that for
Spit
sure.
it back out.
Yeah, you can spit them back out. But it's because I was trying to chase the thing, and because I was trying to chase the thing, it pulled me away from doing the stuff.
Exactly.
Thus, it left me empty and fried. And by the time I hobbled over to meditation training with Kia Miller, just like on empty. And then she's like, you're going to go deep and inward. I was like, fuck you. No. Like, and then I came out being like, well, maybe I should actually try this stuff, And as soon as I started trying this stuff, it was like, oh, maybe you don't need to do all the other things. Maybe you do this thing. And then, oh, maybe this half hour now becomes an hour because you've noticed that it's actually shifting this and this perspective. And, then that becomes into like my partner being like, this is like you have entered, like the way that you walk out into your day, Danny, is completely different than you have before. And like, even, in the way that you process like what you're going to do for the day, and the way that you talk about the end of your day is completely different than before, because we get caught up in the, we've talked about this, the hustle of like the goal that we thought we were supposed to do, becoming like the big popular, whatever, insert the thing.
Exactly.
We pulled away from it. Without like, and I'm not saying it's like it's the end all do all for me. There's some days where I skip in the morning, or like I run out of time or whatever. But there is a big shift and a big difference when I do it and when I don't do it. And right now, like I don't know, I'm more about I can do one less thing in the day to do this thing for myself and to just check in. Like just really. Like God damn it, I'm worth it.
Yes, you are worth it, Danny. But yeah, I mean, we were just saying, like, in this fresh move, these past few days have been a bit of a run around trying to get my life organized, and because of that, my practice and my morning routine has been sacrificed and sort of given away, and I felt it especially this morning of that sort of yearning, like as I was sort of in an Uber and driving around and like, and getting some things done, I felt this yearning inside of me of like, you really just want to be still right now, like be quiet and be still. And as this, new teaching gig sort of rolls and I start to get a little more settled into my space, like priority number one is, get the meditation cushion and find that little corner of the new house where where I can begin to create that routine again here in that new space. And it's beautiful because again, like I feel that yearning. Like it's once you realize, and I've heard so many people say this, of course, and again, you fall in and out of it, but instead of feeling like you're forcing yourself to sit down and do these things because people say it makes life better, it is that internal yearning of like just that knowing, like I want to sit, I want to be quiet, and I want to do the work, and I know how deeply that can transform everything in my life, and yeah, I'm excited to get back into it once the dust settles. I guess the dust will never settle. Maybe I should just stop saying that.
Yeah, or maybe there is no dust.
Oh, was that the mic drop?
I mean, maybe I just gave you another anxiety. Maybe I just gave you another anxiety attack.
No, what I think you should do is just say, maybe there is no dust, and then just stop the recording there, and that'll be the end of the podcast.
People are like, what the?
Oh my God, what?
What's next on deck for you? I mean, now that you're just, I know for a fact, not even taking your classes back over here, but you are thick on community, man. You've got a gift at making it happen and creating it. And I think it's really just the way that you show up. What's next on deck for you for when you land, and what do you see happening out there for you next?
Yeah. Oh, thank you. That means a lot. It does mean a lot to me, especially coming from you. Well, I think what we've talked about before is this idea of sort of the schedule clearing a little bit more, and that's definitely happened for me. Like, especially because I'm here in Adelaide right now, and the Power Living Adelaide studios are up and running, and the second one is opening here tomorrow. The next little chunk of time, like the first half of this year, is really settling in here and sort of being a part of this community. So we have a big opening party, and the studio gets up and running, and I just want to be here, and I want to teach yoga and just live a life where I'm not traveling too much, and I'm allowing myself to see and to be seen in a new community. And then coming up in June and July, I'm heading to Thailand to run a 200-hour and a 300-hour training. And I'm super excited about that. That's going to be a big sort of landmark of this year, and one that we've been working towards putting together for a long time. So that's going to be a really, really beautiful, beautiful offering, and one that I'm really thrilled about. And other than that, now that I'm in Australia, I'm going to be definitely traveling around here and teaching a little bit, but more of just sort of the weekend getaways of like trips up to Sydney and Melbourne and Byron Bay, and teaching some weekend workshops and stuff like that. But, off for the weekend and then back home here teaching during the week. So there's still be an aspect of traveling and teaching, but a lot of it is just allowing myself to be still and to realign and to just teach the yoga and not worry about anything else.
100%, man. I mean, that's a gift in itself. I feel like I need to go stalk you at some point this summer.
Yeah, please come to Australia. It's I keep saying that. When I lived in Oz for a few years before that, all my friends in the States, they're like, yeah, I'm coming to see you. And then they look at the duration of time that they have to be in an airplane, and my sister was the only one that came out to see me. So maybe you will start the trend of the US friends taking that long journey.
Challenge accepted, people.
Yes. All right. We'll check back in and see if it's actually a thing.
All right. This is it. You heard it first, yogis. Listen to this. You heard it first. This is going down. I do not like to be challenged. If you tell me I'm not going to do something, and I'm immediately go and do it. I do not like authority.
This is good to know. I will use this tool for future domination. But yeah, I mean, I would love to have you out here and just to hang out and to show you this beautiful place. I mean, there's something, as soon as I moved here and visited here a little bit before I moved here the first go around, there's something really special happening here in Australia. And just it's a community in a country that's deeply. I don't want to speak to a country as a whole because obviously it can't be accurate, but it's a community
We'll
that's
go with it.
right, the entire country. But the communities that I've been involved with, especially in yoga and especially living on the coast, are communities that are deeply passionate about wellness and deeply passionate about environment and this climate crisis. And especially in this time in Australia now where the bushfires are out of control and the entire country is on fire. There's this outcrying of people who are demanding now to be heard and to ask the greater population to start to really look at how we're living and how we're interacting with this planet and this life. And I can feel it in Australia that there's just this sort of deep longing for this impactful change. And yeah, it's there are these places in the world sometimes, and I'm sure you felt it, where, especially in all of our travels, where you land, and some places you land and you're like, oh yeah, this place is great. Like I dig it. I dig the people. This is awesome. Would love to come back. And there's some places that you land where all of a sudden, like, it's like your cells start to vibrate in this like resonant frequency with the land you're in. And I felt it in a couple places and especially in Australia and most definitely in New Zealand. And it's this, as soon as I land in certain places here, it almost feels like my nervous system just sort of expands and calms down a little bit. Yeah, I'm so lucky and I'm so excited to be able to be here for at least a couple of years to sink back in.
Well, now I have to go out after that statement. You can't just be like, you can't just leave me like that.
While I was talking, Danny was just on Travelocity booking some flights.
I'm sorry, what were you saying? I was busy on Travelocity booking flights. Oh man, Adam, it's such a pleasure to have you on the show, dude. I just can't thank you enough for being here and just showing up the way that you do and just everything, man. You know how I feel. Like I got so much love for you. And every time there are a few people that I look forward to, like every single time, like I'm like, yeah, like I get jazzed up, but like you are definitely one of those people. I know that when I'm done talking with you, the good, the bad, and the in between, I'm still going to feel good. I'm still going to feel like, I mean, I hate to say, like I'm vibrating higher, but like I'm vibrating higher, just insert cheesy, line there, but it's such a pleasure and an honor to talk to you and thank you for inspiring me and just showing up the way that you do. I appreciate it so much.
Oh, I mean, that means a lot. And I appreciate you as well. I mean, just the way that you're showing up in the community and for the practice. And, you're definitely, I believe, another sort of resonant voice of what I believe in. And yeah, it just means a lot to me to be able to be on this platform and to speak with you, but also just to speak with you as much as I can. And just to be in your life is the joy. So thank you.
Thanks, brother. Until the next Yogi Misfit sessions, this is Danny and Adam saying peace out.
Peace.